Hello there everybody, what are you doing? I'm SuperSonicBlur and welcome to the Ymir God Guide build and kit explanation. Since Group A of LAN has recently been done in Smite, we've seen Ymir come out a couple of times actually, and he's seen a lot of success in actually a few roles that you wouldn't necessarily think. This guy is a Guardian, and he does just fine there, but as well this guy can run in the solo lane and actually fares off fairly decently in the jungle as well. Cherio is running this quite nicely, and we've seen a lot of variety play this in the solo lane, and Rafa's been, well, he was like kind of the first person to really bring this back into the Guardian role. Now, exactly why that is mainly due to a couple of changes that have happened in recent patches and things, mostly due to his kit, not necessarily so much items. What those changes were aren't really that much of a problem or worth talking about here. Those are in patch notes and things that you'll find from other people. What we're here to talk about is that kit, which did get changed. What's that kit? Let's take a look in the kit guide. Okay, so Ymir's passive is called Frostbite. All of Ymir's damaging abilities that affect enemies apply a debuff to that enemy called Frostbite. All of Ymir's basic attacks against targets that are afflicted with Frostbite do 100% more damage. Enemies afflicted by Frostbite will also deal 10% less damage, and this lasts for 4 seconds or until you reapply it. So, basically what we see here is that in the early game, Ymir's basics will hurt a lot, and they'll do a lot of damage to you. What we also see as well is, as the game gets later and later, you start doing less damage to Ymir thanks to that 10% debuff. Really strong and a really good controlling character. This is why coming out of something like the jungle and the solo lane is really strong for this guy, because early he will box you and he will fight you and he will probably win that fight, and in the jungle he will burst you and he will destroy. He has really strong, super fast quick clear, because you're already getting the 10 bonus damage from Bumba's Mask. Now you're coupling in double the damage. You're doing 2 auto attacks in the same speed that a normal jungler would be doing 1. It's pretty damn strong. Not to mention as well, the actual damage that he'll be doing on his first ability will be this ability will be actually really strong as well. So this guy early is really strong, and late game he transitions more from being damage into more of a controlling, you do less damage, I'm a big tank, you can't kill me, and a frontline, which is absolutely insane. So already from his passive alone, you can kind of see why Ymir has been picked up a lot more. As a result, you know, you can already start getting a basic idea for what Ymir does. And you can very easily sort of split Ymir into 2 categories, his early game and his late game. And I'm going to do this very easy right now. I'm going to do it as I say through the abilities. So Ice Wall, late game. Ymir summons a wall of ice out of the ground that blocks players' movements. This lasts for 6 seconds in the late game. So just for reference as to what that is, I will show you the full wall, because you guys need to just see how long this wall takes. I'll level all his abilities to max as well while I'm here, because that'd be a good idea. So, you know, gone to 60, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so this wall. Let's say you're in the jungle or in a lane or something. First of all, this is a pretty damn big wall. This is like a 30 in width, which is nuts. But just watch this. Yeah. There we go. And now it's gone. That is 6 seconds. That is a long time. And the cooldown on it by itself is 14 seconds. So there's only ever a time of 8 seconds when you're not going to have an ice wall available. And this enables you to block off so much. This is one of your late game things when you start getting into team fights. You can cut people off to get people out. And because it lasts for like 3 to 4 seconds until the very late game, that's still a long period of time that people aren't going to be able to aggress unless they use a leap over, at which point then they can put themselves out of position, or you can cut someone off once they've used their leap or whatever. You can put that out there and they're now stuck with you, and so as a result, that is really strong. In the late game, when you're with the team, this will blow people up. Even when juggle ganks and stuff in the sort of mid game, this ability starts hurting a lot, like a severe amount, just because it's a wall that you suddenly weren't expecting to be there. Now you have to go around it. If you've got someone who's pressed up against one wall, like, I don't know, in the solo lane, like, say over here is like the all the way along here is like the solo lane wall. Here's the jungle. If I suddenly do this, to get around that, you have to go all this way and then around it. And this is what separates good Ymir players from great Ymir players, is the wall placements. If you place that wall in such a way that people just cannot get out, you will get yourself and net yourself so much additional poke, kill potential, zoning potential. And that's only from his first ability, ladies and gentlemen, is Ice Wall. And his passive, of course, as well, meaning that you can make them do 10% less damage. If they're like, oh crap, I have to stay and fight, now you do less damage, so you're kind of screwed either way. Now his 2, Glacial Strike. Early to mid game, not really that great late game, but it's still got a slow on it. Ymir smashes his club, doing damage to all enemies in front of him, and slowing them. This will apply Frostbite. Now his 1 does not apply Frostbite. It doesn't do any damage, so it's not going to apply Frostbite, but all the others do. So, the slow duration, pretty good, 4 seconds. It's pretty big ability as well. It's got, like, I believe, like a 45 range, 45, 50 range on it. So it'll pretty much hit most of a wave, if not all of it, if you press yourself up against it. And the nice thing is you can press yourself off to the side of it because you've got all the way along the side. So if this path here is sort of the wave, then you can sort of do this and chunk like that. 370 base, really, really good. This will full clear a wave level 4. So that's really strong. And as well, because it applies Frostbite, just watch, like 53 a basic attack, slap that down, 105 a basic attack. Pretty good. So yeah, you can get like 4 basics in there, which is the equivalent of getting 8 basics in. So that's just trading out those things early. And of course, this is level 20, but you know. Really strong from that regard. Clears the wave, does a lot. It still has a 35% slow, which is pretty damn good. 8-second cooldown. Get yourself some CDR, that'll come down to about 5 seconds. Which is what makes Ymir so strong, is the fact that he has a 5-second cooldown ability that clears wave and does a lot of poke damage. If you think of like Ravan, this is like the magical equivalent of Ravan. It's big, bulky, busts you, trades with you, and usually wins those trades. Like, I'm pretty sure this guy can trade almost evenly with Ravan. The issue is that Ravan has the stain in his kit, but you could actually still outplay him with that. So you can actually take those trades because he will 1 you as often as you will 2, and you can still punch him at the same time. So that's kind of fairly early-ish game. His 3 is just fantastic at all points of the game. Frost Breath. Ymir uses his breath to freeze enemies in a block of ice, doing damage and stunning them. Applies Frostbite, so this does damage, and it's a stun that at level 1 is 1.25 seconds, meaning you will get pretty much 2 basic attacks in after this, so they can 4 with Frost Breath. This also can sort of help you clear the lane early, which is really strong. And as well, going into the latest point, 2.25 second stun. That is a long time, and it's a pretty big cone. And actually, I don't know if I can hit both of these. Can I hit both of these? I don't think I can hit both of them. No, I can't quite hit both of them, but that's a shame. But just look at how big this cone range is. You can get like 2-3 man. If you can get 2-3 man freezes, you're going to do amazing. And don't forget as well, you can couple this in with your wall. So you couple this in with the wall. Oh no, I can't get away. Now I'm stunned. You're going to force beads by doing this. You are absolutely going to force beads. So you can do this, and you'll cover everyone who's in front of that wall. Absolutely everyone who's in front of that wall. Then you can follow it up with a Glacial Strike and get the damage in. Or you can sit there and use your ultimate, which is pretty good at all points of the game. Definitely better off early, I would say, than later. The main reason I would say it's better off early is because the damage is really high early. The damage is really high late as well, but you're not sat there channeling it. And we'll explain why the channeling it is important. Shards of Ice. Ymir begins to freeze the air around him, causing shards of ice to grow on his back and slowing enemies with a 30% slow. In a big AoE of 35 radius, that's pretty good. That's a 70 range, you know, that's a big zoning slow. After 3 seconds of channeling this, Ymir erupts out of his frozen state, causing shards of ice to do damage to all enemies in his range. This applies Frostbite. Now, you can cancel this ability early and it'll do decreased damage. So if you just pop it instantly, this ability will do half its damage. This also as well has a 120%, I think 120% scaling. Let me just check if I buy this. Yeah, that's 150% scaling on it. That's really, really, really strong. Like, really strong. So, yeah, that's pretty good. Also, the Glacial Strike and Frostbite have pretty decent scaling on them as well. I mean, it's 50 and 60, I think. 50 and 60 or 70 on Glacial Strike, so that's pretty good. But yeah, it's a really strong ability. This also comes with CC immunity. And, as well, it's a 70-second ult. Give yourself full CDR. And, like, if you give yourself 30% CDR, you're sat at 49 seconds. That is a 49 seconds CC immunity, or a 49 seconds up to 1,000 damage. If you just burst that instantly, you're doing 550 base damage just for pressing 4 and then right-clicking. That is a lot. Like, just look at this. Like, look, just instantly. Like, just instantly charge. I don't know whether or not it starts off really low and then goes up. It may be because pen and shit like that. I don't know, but yeah. Like, you instantly channel that thing, you're dropping a fair bit. You don't want to burn it instantly. You want to sit there for a little bit of time, just a little bit. But your full kit rotation is pretty much, well, I'll show you what I can show you anyway. Basically, you wall someone, you freeze them, drop the 2 instantly, and start channeling your ult. As soon as they come out of your stun, you're gonna have to just pop your ult, pretty much. You're not gonna get the full channel duration, but you're never looking for the full channel duration. If you get the full channel duration, you're going to destroy someone. Like, you're absolutely going to destroy them. But I'll show you on this Ymir, or this Odin, sorry. So you go up there, wall, instantly freeze, start channeling that ult, boom. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That was like 500, 300, 180. So you can burn someone pretty hard. Normally in the team fights, you're not necessarily going to use your ult for those kind of things. It's more going to be the zoning or when you're controlling someone. You can also use it for peel as well. And you can use it as well to burn through objectives. The only thing to remember is that if you're channeling this for 3 seconds, you're not peeling for 3 seconds. So it can be a bit difficult for that side of things. But either way, that's his kit. Now that we've done that, let's go over a leveling guide for this guy. Alright then, so you're level 1. I'm going to be taking this as if you are in the solo lane or the jungle. It's going to change up a little bit for the support role, and I will mention those changes, but for the most part, the jungle and the solo are pretty similar for the most part. You can change slightly in the jungle depending on who you're working with in your mid and potentially with your support as well. Depends on your comp a little bit and their comp. But for the most part, this is going to be a bog standard generic thing. There is no such thing as a quote-unquote generic build, but this is a general idea for what you should be thinking about when you're leveling him and why I would recommend leveling him this way. So just keep those things in mind. This is important to you. So level 1, you need to clear camps. Your Frost Breath does not do that much damage. Shards of Ice does a load of damage, but unfortunately we can't get a level 1. Your Ice Wall doesn't do any damage either, so you're going to get Glacial Strike. You'll get that level 1, and it's a pretty, you know, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's a pretty decent ability. It will give you a fairly decent shot potential. I mean, if your jungle pulls the camp, you do that, pop those 2, try and aim at the big one as much as you can, because the big one's where you can get the most damage in. With your jungler as well, they'll pick off the little ones as well, usually, and you can start wailing into the big one. You clear the big one as quick as possible. You can clear the little ones, but it's probably best to clear the big one first, usually. Especially as well if you may get invaded on, it's best to always try and clear that first. So yeah, that's what you get level 1. Level 2, level 2. What are you going to do level 2? Well, getting your walls is really not going to be too helpful in lane. And getting it in the jungle isn't going to help you too much either. You'd be better off with a harder, more easier to confirm CC. So picking up Frost Breath. If you're in the solo lane as well, this can actually still help you clear. And it can catch people off guard if they sit in their wave. Because that cone range is about the same width as a minion wave. So you can stand off to the side and quite comfortably hit almost a full minion wave. If you sit back just a little bit, you'll hit a full minion wave out. So yeah, I'm just gonna clear these. Get it. Die. So yeah, level 2, you'll be able to get that. You can start zoning people out. You can start whacking them up. You can take trades in between the waves. Remember as well that your 2 has a fairly low cooldown, so you could use that. Just make sure that you have it up for the wave as well. So coming into the wave, as you can see, look, I can hit almost all of a wave with this. Like, look at that. I hit 4 minions in that wave. If your opponent is stood by the either the melee minions or in between the 2 separate bits, you can poke them. You can poke them for free. Level 3, I recommend getting the second point in Glacial Strike. You don't really need the wall, and it's better to really push that early damage that you've got. You want to use this to bully people out, so get that. You can get the wall in a way of sort of potentially clearing some stuff. If you're in the support role, you can get the wall as well to help your ADC get more poke and isolate out. I would probably recommend doing that as well. What you can also do as well is force a leap or the disengage of someone if you clear fast. If you know that your opponent hasn't picked up their dash or their leap ability, then you can pick them off. And if you're going against the enemy support, you can isolate them who may not have the ability to dash or leap away. As a result, you're able to start poking into the support and you pressure them. So that's pretty good getting the wall level 3. Or you can still get the wall level 2 and you really push. It really depends what you want. You want the pushing power or the potential poking power. Again, it really depends on your team comp, who you're going up against and what they're doing. All those kinds of things. The wall can also be useful to help with a disengage. If they try and leap in on your... If they try and leap in, like, I don't know, say they got a Fafnir. They leap in. You drop the wall behind them. That means they don't have an escape. A, they don't have an escape. And B, the enemy support... Oh, sorry, the enemy ADC can't basic attack through that wall. They can't follow up on this unless they use abilities to either leap over, which is going to potentially put them out of place. And if your jungle can rotate around, then they could potentially work off that. So that's pretty strong. Either way, level 4, this is what you're going to end up with. 2 points in your 2, 1 point in your 1, and 1 in your 3. Level 5. Get your ultimate. It's already on a 90-second cooldown. It's 500 damage if you can channel the full thing. It's going to do you a lot of good. And it's CC immunity. So you can pre-CC immune something, which is really strong. It's not going to help you the best of times because it's very difficult to, like, it's not like pre-beezing something, but you can do it. And as well, you can force someone to stick around. If you drop the wall and then start channeling it and your opponent doesn't have an escape mechanic, they are probably going to take the full damage of this. They are absolutely going to get destroyed because it's 500 base damage. And even on the early levels, 500 is still a big number. You drop out, what, 100 damage of that? It's still 400, which is a big number. When gods have 800 health max, that's pretty big. That's a pretty big number. That's like half healthing someone instantly. And it's a slow as well, so if they do that under tower, they're just screwed. But yeah, next level. You're going to start picking up your Glacial Strike. If in the jungle, you can leave it here and start looking to Frost Breath if you want to start really applying more CC or damage at this point. If you're in the support role, this is about as high as you want to go. Going any higher than rank 4 or this rank will start one-shotting the wave. If you're trying to let your ADC stack and you're one-shotting the wave, that's not great. So at this point, this is the point on your support, you stop putting points in Glacial Strike. Yes, it's a lot more damage. Yes, it's, you know, you can say that if you're working for the poke potential, then it's good. But you're not going to be able to help them clear with Glacial Strike, and you don't want to start trying to clear with Frost Breath because you'd rather save that for your CC potential. So at this point, leave it, because you can do more with the Frost Breath from this point on. Jungle, you can keep it here and start going for Frost Breath if you don't want to do that. However, I'd recommend keep going with that because this is still going to affect your jungle clear. And solo lane, who the fuck cares if you're one-shotting the wave? If you're one-shotting the wave, that's a good thing. So you actually want that. So at this point, stop and look at your other abilities as a support. Everything else, keep going with picking up your Glacial Strike. With your Glacial Strike at this point, you will start one-shotting the wave. Level 8, dead easy. Also level 7, you start putting points into Frost Breath. Or If you're Irafa, then you get points in your 1. The reason you'd get points in your 1 is dependent on the team comp. If they're very immobile, then you can do a lot more by keeping someone in place. Because essentially what you got to look at here is think of the 1 and Frost Breath as almost the same thing. A stun is a way where they can't move, but they could bead out and CC immune it, or they use CC immunity. Ice Wall stops them from moving a specific way, but you can't beads a wall. You can't do that. So if the enemy team is very immobile, or you could catch them out, then it may be worth picking up more points in the wall. However, it's very situational, and if you're not great with the walls, then you can be more of a detriment to the team than helpful, because you'll end up walling people off when you don't want to. You'll end up walling off your own team, or they will be getting out. And there is nothing more frustrating than watching someone get away and your teammate gets their face planted by a wall, and you just look there and think, I'm just going to go set back at fountain because I'm an idiot. So be careful. However, level 8, get your next point in Frost Breath for the solo lane or the jungle. It's really good to help get that more CC and a little bit more damage on it. Level 9, it's kind of up to you. The ult gets 150 damage on it and 5-second cooldown. However, it's still something that you have to channel, and it's more useful as a CC immunity. Getting that Glacial Strike, that third chunk of damage, is so useful. So picking that is great. Support role, again, Frost Breath is better. So at that point for the support role, get your Frost Breath and keep going with Frost Breath. Personally, I like picking up the final point in Glacial Strike, but it really is up to you. If you are able to do and channel Shards of Ice more because you have a high CC comp, do it. If you want to be able to CC more and they've got more than enough burst to complement that, get Frost Breath. If you just want to put on your carry pants and slap people with Glacial Strike more because you've not been able to get off Shards of Ice, get Glacial Strike. There's really not too many bad ways to go with Ymir, so keep that in mind. At this point, I would recommend definitely having that second point at level 10, whatever you've done, just because it means that if you're trading ult for ult in the solo lane, this is another point that I didn't mention in the last level, but if you're trading ult for ult in the solo lane, if they've got a 90-second ult and you have a timer less than that, that's going to give you the advantage, because that gives you 5 seconds, which doesn't sound like much, but 5 seconds of time where they don't have a potentially CC immune ult or a leap or some form of control, and you will have your ult, which is important. That's why I feel like gods in the solo lane that have a shorter cooldown on their ultimates, like Chark, Amaterasu, things like that, having those lower cooldown ults is really important, because this means that if you're trading ults, like let's say a Bellona trades an ult with an Amaterasu. Great, okay, she outplayed the Amaterasu, she ulted at the last second and got the stun off and maybe could turn it. Amaterasu could still potentially hold it as well. Oh no, she immuned the last bit of my ult. That's a shame. But that's 20 seconds of time where Amaterasu will have her ult and Bellona won't. That's 20 seconds of playtime. And again, same sort of thing coming here. That's why I find that some Wukong ult is just so awkward, because it's on 110 seconds and it's like, I really don't want to use this early because I want to bully, but I can't if I haven't got my ult, and that's sort of like the clutch. But either way, that's for some Wukong. I mean, not there. But yeah, start getting some points in Shard of Ice. It's worth it. At this point, again, Frost Breath, really start pushing that. If you're in the support role, you've probably got this almost maxed by now. So that's great. That's absolutely great. So yeah, you'll be level 13. You'll probably end up, yeah, get the third point at this point. This is somewhere where you'll look at level 13 on a support. Just get the full Frost Breath out there because the CC's great. So there's a couple variants and things, but getting the full Frost Breath is still nice. It's a 0.5 second increase on the stun duration, which is great. And at this point, just start leveling your ult. If you're in the support role, you can start leveling the wall. Again, how good are you with the wall? If you're in the jungle or solo, keep going with the ult. The ult is great. And then you just start leveling the wall. Get the ult when you can. Keep leveling that wall. Keep leveling that out. Keep leveling that wall. Again, it's very much what comes down to you. And this is why Ymir is so difficult to try and explain. Because all options for leveling are viable. Like, you can turn around and say, oh, I want a better stun duration. Or you can turn around and say, yeah, but that's great, but why would I not just wall someone off for 6 seconds and blow them up in that time where they can't move? And it, again, really comes down to you. If your name is Irafa, yeah, go with Ice Wall. In fact, what the fuck are you even here? Go be scrimming or whatever the fuck you want to do, man. But yeah, you do you, man. You do you, and have everyone tell you you're crazy. But yeah, this is what you're gonna end up. Level 20, everything will be maxed, so who the hell cares? If you can get to level 20 as well, then it's absolutely great. Because level 20 gives you that last 5 seconds on Shards of Ice and a huge 4 digits in damage, which is great. Like, if you can pull that thing off, that's great. But yeah, that's what you gotta end up with Ymir. Pretty strong, pretty great. Love it. Late game, you're going to be looking to use your walls on your 3 and using your 2 to slow, more so than do damage. You can still slap out some damage, but don't expect to be using the double damage from basic attacks for Frost Breath. Expect it to be more, ha, look at your ADCs. Look how you do 10% less damage. Or, ha, look at the mage, they do 10% less damage. Or, frontline, get stunned and blown up while we wall off the rest of the team. So yeah, really, really strong. Use that from that regard. Don't expect to be in the super late game to be like one-shotting people. You can if you get ahead like super far, but don't expect it too much. You still do damage, but it will fall off. It will fall off. Just keep that in mind. It will fall off. Unless you built like full damage, but even then, it will still fall off on the base numbers. But that's aside from the point. But speaking about build, let's go over one for this guy. Okay, so a build. You want a build. Well, if you're starting in the jungle, you get Bumba's Mask and Boots 1 and Beads. You can get Beads. Beads is a good option for the jungle. It's going to be useful. If you're in the solo lane, you get Mark of the Vanguard. Mark of the Vanguard means that you can bully a lot, especially against another physical. If you're not against another physical, it's still worth getting Mark of the Vanguard because the physical protection will help you against the minions, and reducing all damage you take by 5 is great. Also, what's really nice about this is the fact that Ymir, in fact, all gods, I'm pretty sure. Alright, I one-shot the little ones. But yeah, first of all, you'll see just how little damage that those minions are doing. And second of all, with Ymir's passive, doing 10% less damage, and taking 5 less damage, and then taking 10%, you've got the 10 physical protections as well. It really makes Ymir strong against physicals. Against physicals, he takes no damage and sits there and laughs. So that's great. You get Boots 1 as well, because Boots 1 are what you do. You just get Boots 1. It's great. At this point, there's a very strange thing that's sort of happened now, and that Shoes of Focus, I would say, are actually better in most cases for magical solo laners than Shoes of the Magi. Or Magi, because Shoes of the Magi are going to give you 45 power and 10 penetration, which is like, that's all I really need. But Ymir doesn't need that because he's got the base numbers to one-shot the wave. Also, as well, Shoes of the Magi come with only 5 less... Shoes of Focus come with 5 less power, 250 mana, which is great for the solo lane because you have that additional 250 mana pool, which means that if you do you lose your mana buff, you're still playing around with 250 more mana, and 10% CDR, which is great. And the movement speed still, which is just, standard for Shoes. So picking those up, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. You're not losing anything for picking that up. And you're putting your Glacial Strike on a shorter cooldown, which means you can bop and trade with the enemies more, which is great. It also puts your Freeze on a shorter cooldown, which is great. And Shards of Ice gets on a shorter cooldown. In case you can't tell, that's great. If you're in the solo lane, then Teleport is probably your best option. The main reason for that is Ymir is very slow, so Teleport is great. It's also still pretty good as a jungler, as an option if you want, as a second relic. But yeah, get Teleport. So once you got your Shoes of Focus, next up you got to look at what you're going against. If you're going against a magical, you can pick up a Void Stone. Void Stone's pretty good, gives you magical power, protections, defense. Really strong. If you're going against a physical, even if you are going against a magical, actually, to be fair, unless they've, built, they're just building penetration, I don't know, if you're not going against, a Guardian in the solo lane, more like a Chronos, then you might be thinking about different stuff. But or you're going against something else that's magical, then you'll look to something else. If they've got, a Sustainer, like, I don't know, like a healer, like an Aphrodite or a Hell or something like that, then you pick up a Pestilence in that sort of situation. You're looking for anti-heal. However, another standard thing to do is Valor. Get Valor. Your 3 sort of options are Valor, Pestilence, or Voidstone. The reason I say those is as a generic, bog standard, again, this is all going to come down to what you're facing against. Well, on the whole team, not just in the solo lane, but you got to look at what you're going against and counter building there and sort of building against what they're building. But the generic idea here is cooldown. Get cooldown, get mana, get protections. It's great. This here gives you 30% CDR, which puts your Glacial Strike on a 5.6 second timer. That is insane. Frost Breath on a 12-second timer. That's great. Shards of Ice on 49, as we spoke about earlier. That's great. So yeah, at this point now, you're probably going to want your magical defense. I like getting the Voidstone here. Voidstone's great. Absolutely love Voidstone. Again, if they've got healing, get that. If they've got something like an Ao Kuang or anything like that, you can get a Bulwark of Hope. It's great. Crowd control reduction is really, really strong. All those kinds of things. Personally, I like to run with a Voidstone at this point. This gives you that ability to start making an impact in the team fights when you start rotating, because at this point people may start to be building up some protections. The support's probably going to have their full Hide of the Urchin done, and they're going to start getting tanky. So being able to strip those protections down by 20 means that if you have a magical ADC and mid and the 2 physicals in the jungle and support role, then you're going to do a lot. Even if you're not, you still are able to slap out 20 protections, which isn't bad. Against the squishies, this is going to pretty much set them down to almost non-existent amounts. Or against the bigger guys, it's still going to take the slight edge off it. But yeah, I like it. I like Voidstone. Voidstone's great. After this point, it's pretty much down to sort of what you guys are feeling. Like, you can still slap on like a Spirit's Robe, gets you that final bit of CDR, which is great. 40 magical and physical is great. Crowd control reduction is fantastic. Like, this is just a really nice item. If you want to start being a bit more mobile in these things, your other options then for movement speed, Winged Blade is great. A lot of health on that, which is great. If you've got a healing comp, get rid of Asclepius, or Rod of Ass Claps as I call it. Because this is 75 magical power, which is great. 250 health, which is great. Movement speed is great. The aura is great. And I really, really like it. It's really strong and wonderful and great. So you can pick it up and it's really, really fun. I wouldn't necessarily recommend things like Gem of Isolation just because you're going to start DRing on slows. And you already have 2 reasonably good slows in your kit. So there's no point really doing it as well outside of that. So it's kind of not the best option. There are other items that you can look at. You can get an Ethereal Staff in here as well. Another option for third item is Ethereal Staff. And actually, you know what? I'm going to say Ethereal Staff before the Voidstone. Get Ethereal Staff because it's great. These sort of 3 items pretty much just complement everything you need. E-Staff is a boatload of power and health, and it's great. At this point, then you pick up your Voidstone. Go for the Ethereal Staff because it's more power, more health, mana. It's great. It's really, really nice. Then you want to work on, depending on how early you're going, Hide of the Urchin is not great later because you really want to get those stacks. And later on in team fights, it's going to be sort of a little bit more difficult for you necessarily to get those stacks. So I like Spirit's Robe. Again, get that full CDR. And then last item, again, it's kind of really up to you. You can get more health, defense, physical, whatever you need. Whatever your team is needing and whatever you are needing to help your team go ahead, or kind of just generally have a play about with what you feel you need. Like I said, if your team's got a good healing comp and you can get this into place, get rid of Asclepius. It's great. An item that I kind of think is good is actually the Stone of Gaia. Like, just hear me out on this. I can understand what you guys, I can hear what you guys are saying, like, oh, Stone of Gaia, but actually Ymir has the highest base scaling of any, by the highest base health of any god. So, it kind of works. Like, this really, really helps. Like, slapping this on here, it gives him a lot. You're really kind of helpful in this. As for your second active, Blink. Just get Blink. It's so good to have that initiation. getting that initiation to blink in and freeze. Now, bear in mind, if your support has blink, you're better off going with something else. The reason why I say this is you don't need the double initiation. You don't need that blink in from 2 separate people. If your support's going to be able to blink in and ult, like, I don't know, blink in Wrath of Terror, blink in Cataclysm, blink in Sobek pull, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But if they're going to be the ones going in for that thing, you could save that out for getting like a Weakening Curse, a Meditation, a Sprint, a Hog, or Wrath as it is now known, a Sunder if the enemy team's really strong. You know, whatever. Don't get Scout. You can get a Phantom for the team if you feel like it. You know, whatever. It's still really good. But saying your support doesn't go that, you can get the blink. Chances are, if you get the blink, this means that they can get the shell as well. It really, play about with the team. If you've got them in comms, it's useful to have that and be able to work with them on that. So blink, shell, sprint, Wrath. Wrath is quite a nice one for secure on like Gold Fury and Fire Giant in the later stages, so that's quite nice. But Med, you have a huge amount of health. You're going to be able to help with your team with a huge amount of health as well, so that's pretty good. But yeah, we'll say that you go with the blink, because blink means that you can blink freeze, which is going to do so much for you. If you can blink freeze and then set up a wall at that point, you're going to blow people up. So yeah, this is the sort of generic idea for builds and stuff. If you really want to be if you're feeling that you really need to do more damage, Soul Reaver is an option. I wouldn't recommend it fully, but it's there. And yeah, Magi's Blessing, if you're going against a high CC comp and you're just getting locked down, get Magi's Blessing. It's really down to what you're facing, and I can't stress that enough. Don't look at these and think, this is the one build that I will build forever because, you know, this guy said so, and, you know, it sounds reasonable and he's saying all the right things. You have to look at this and think, I am being affected most by X, Y, and Z. As a result, I need to build A to help me with that. Or my team needs this in order to help them, so I'm going to build that because I've got the option to. You know, your concept is tanky frontline with potential for sustain. You don't need to be doing damage in the late game. Soul Reaver can be nice to be able to burn that through, but it's better off to let your mages and your ADCs worry about that. This is why I like the Stone of Gaia, just because it keeps you ticking, and that's one of the few things that Ymir can run into issues with. Yeah, he's a big, great, hulking block of ice that's going to be able to absorb everything, but he's very immobile, and if he gets himself poked out a lot, he's gonna have to go all the way back to base and then come back in, and if you teleport it down, then that's not great and you're very slow. So as a result, you can really suffer from that. But yeah, this is the sort of build that I like. As I said, your kit rotation is 3, drop your 2, drop the wall, channel the ult, and then boom. Yeah, like I said, that's Ymir. His biggest weakness is getting to people. Like I said, he's very mobile. This is why you want to look for a blink, because you can be like, over here, like, oh hey, there's Odin over there. Odin, you stupid. And again, this is all them not this is if they don't beat. And the other thing as well, you can beat, yeah, or you can get Frost Breath. You don't even have to necessarily blink. If you drop the wall, like if you've got an enemy who's running from you, drop a wall in their face and blap. Now they have to walk around it or leap over it. If they don't have a leap, they're dead. Because you can then, remember, look how long a range this freeze is. Blah. And then you can start walking in and doing damage, which is really good. So you can do that. And if they beat, they beat. You didn't invest anything. You invested a wall and a freeze. So you're good. So yeah. And of course, look at this. This is on a 10-second cooldown. Beads is on a, what is it? It's like 150, almost 200 there, but it's not. It's like 150, 160 seconds. You can do that 16 more times. You force them into an awkward spot. So, and look at the range of this. You don't even have to do that much. Like, just as long as you can place the wall reasonable and you can get in range, you're good. The biggest thing about Ymir is that because it's so narrow towards him, people will start to run around you and juke towards you, which you can use to your advantage. You can, if your team's with you, if you're like here, enemy is going to want to look to get towards the left or right of you. So they want to be here, sort of side by side of you, or pally, to get around your freeze. Because that's how they're going to juke you. That's how they're going to do it, and it sucks, and it happens. But if your team's over there, then they can't really do that without going into your team. So again, play around with positioning. Ymir in the late game is all about that positioning. A couple other things about this wall. Because this technically can nudge people, you can stop people from backing. And in the solo lane, oh my god, is that useful. You're basically sat there like, hey, no, you don't get to back. And you don't have to invest anything, because look how far away. It's like 70 range on that wall. So let's say Odin's basing, and blep. You're not basing now. I didn't invest anything into that other than the wall. And that's from 70 range. So it's not as if I went up close to him to try and stop him from basing. I just blopped him with the wall, which is great. Other things is important as well. As long as you have, I think I worked this out. I think it's, I think there's a magic number for a movement speed for Ymir. And I want to see if I can find it again, because it is an important number. It's a very important number, and I think it's 10% movement speed. As long as you have 396 movement speed, you can do that. If you place the wall right at your feet, you can do that. Anything less than that, and you will not be able to. You will get stuck on the other side. But it's important that you keep that. So let me just, I just didn't mean to sell everything. So yeah, if I do it with no items, then blah, I get stuck. If you do it with moots 1, you get stuck. However, as long as 396 is the magic number. So if you get slowed, if you're above 396, you are okay. Okay? So yeah, that's the thing. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I know this has been a little bit rambly and not necessarily like the most solid thing for, oh, you just put this. But I need to stress to you guys how important it is for you guys to go to these videos, not necessarily thinking for a build, but an understanding of why you're building something. I want you guys to be able to sit and think about your own builds. And if you've got any suggestions for things, leave them in the comments section below. I want to hear what you guys have been thinking and what you guys, your reasoning behind it. It's one of the big things is spitballing these ideas. It helps everyone in the community by trying things out, by learning them. And if there's something that you're doing on a build and someone goes, well, actually, why are you picking this up? You could pick this up and get the same thing. Like, I don't know, let's say instead of like Spirit's Robe, you were getting more CDR. You wanted more CDR, so cooldown. Instead, you went for, hell, you could even go for a Melee Renewal. It's not that bad. You went for, I don't know. Let's say you didn't get Breastplate of Valor, and you were just looking for like some CDR stuff, and you were like Pythagoras Teeth or something. Like, well, why don't you go for Spirit's Robe? Spirit's Robe's going to give you this. You have to just, I can't stress this enough, and I can't really explain it, but I want you guys to be able to think for yourselves. I'm not trying to impart you with a build. I'm trying to come to you guys and say, here's some ideas for items and builds and understanding why. If you can get to the point where you're self-sufficient in going, oh, that makes sense. I want to do this, because of this, which will help me do this. I will be over the moon. These are supposed to give you the knowledge. I want you to be able to go away from these videos and be like, yes, thanks to this, I understand what I'm doing. So yeah, let me know in the comment section below how you guys have found these. Let me know as well if there's any particular goals that you guys want to see. I'm more than happy to take requests for these kind of things. I'm happy to do it. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, I've been SuperSonicBlur. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and favorite for more, and to share this stuff so people know that it exists. You guys have been a fantastic audience, and I shall see you all next time.